Everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you for taking our time to join this webinar. This is our monthly NESG Academy webinar. My name is Idris Abdulgafar. We try to have these conversations every month with different topics, different thematic areas, just to talk through, the end-to-end of skills, core areas that we should think of as, young people, Nigerians, and even just generally professionals. Of course, thinking through the skills that we think everyone needs to thrive in the world of work of today. Our conversation today, the topic for today's webinar is the Smart Workers Playbook, winning with AI in the workplace. We know how the conversation has obviously heightened in the last couple of years as regards, the impact that technology has on the world of work of today, how to think of the work you do, how to also upskill yourself in terms of, core areas you could think of and how tech enables the work that we do. So which has also made, this topic that we are speaking about today very, very pivotal. And as we always do, we bring in guests with expertise in the core areas that we are discussing on. And our guest today is obviously not any different. Our guest for today is Mr. Michael Osumo, Program Manager, Instinct Labs and Falcon Aerospace. I'll just read his profile in a minute and then I'll let him speak. So Mr. Michael Osumo is a strategic operator who builds high-performance systems at the intersection of AI innovation, aviation technology, and advanced learning ecosystems. As program manager at Instinct Lab and Falcon Aerospace, he leads complex initiatives that translate emerging technology into scalable products and measurable enterprise outcomes. He drives the development of AI-powered education platforms, digital skills infrastructure, forecasting and intelligence tools for aviation, and large-scale talent and community programs. His portfolio includes the Gen AI Network, Creative AI Labs, and data-driven aviation applications designed to support maintenance planning, operational readiness, and strategic decision-making. Mr. Michael is recognized for his ability to design and execute structured programs that solves real organizational challenges. His work consistently connects industry partners, universities, and global tech leaders to create systems that deliver long-term value. I bet that, we, without any doubt in our hearts, you can tell from the profile of Mr. Osumo that we have gotten one of the best to have this conversation with us. So thank you so much, Mr. Michael. Thank you for taking our time to have this conversation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Idris. Thank you, everyone. Hope we're all having a great day. If you can hear me, please just signal with a thumbs up. If you are maybe struggling with the voice or anything, just use the text box and let me know. All right. So if you can see me, I guess I could also request for a thumbs up and just go straight to today's menu. Okay, awesome. So, the talk of the town now is AI, and there's no way we can overflow it really.
Sorry, one second, please, Mr. Michael. Just quick housekeeping rules. If you want to drop any comment or question, you can use the chat. I would read it out to Mr. Michael so he can focus on the presentation he's making. So if you have a comment you want to make, a question, anything, just drop it in the chat and I would obviously read it.
All right. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So let me just briefly share my screen. But trust me, today we'll be doing more of you looking at your screen too and working along with me because it's a practical class. So I want to just get us in the mood for, what we have signed up for today. So don't think maybe I'll just be talking I have a very long slide here, but for all intents and purposes, you will be working with your tools, your ChatGPT and Co. So what do we mean by the Smart Workers Playbook? Now, the assumption is that you are already working and you work with a playbook, right? The assumption too is that you want to win with AI. So why are we framed why is this class today or this workshop framed like this? It's very simple. We know that there's this, trope now that AI will not replace you, or somebody working with AI will replace you. Well, the truth is this, it's even more insidious than that. What is happening now and what we are saying is that it's not just somebody working with AI that will replace you, because almost everybody now works with AI one way or the other. I mean, who here has not worked with one AI tool or the other? Just signal. If you haven't worked with one AI tool, if you've not touched AI at all, if you don't have any idea what AI means in the context of work, thumbs up, thumbs down, any emoji. So nobody, right? So that doesn't apply to us, that AI will replace you or somebody working with AI will replace you. That is not the reality of work now. The reality of work now is something more like you do your work with AI, but instead of AI helping you to do better work, you find yourself going over and over again to ChatGPT looking for answers that it doesn't have for you. You find it giving you responses that you don't like. You find that instead of you just going through the point and making the most of your time with ChatGPT, you waste time instead. I mean, if you have that experience of you have a clear question in mind or a task to do, and then you enter ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, and instead of it helping you with that task, it ends up wasting your time. How many here have had that experience at all? If that has been you, well, then this class is for you. If you are the person that wants to save time, be the person at the office that they use as a reference for this guy knows what to do with tools or to do with AI, then this class too is for you. But I must say something. This training is not about using tools. This training is about how to think about your job and using AI as a prop or as an assistant. So I would like to bring one quick analogy now, where you are the driver, you are the person who has the car, but the problem is that you seem to struggle with knowing exactly how fast that car can go. What's the rate of acceleration, and what kind of oil do you need? What's the fuel you need? That is the way most people are right now with AI. They have this incredibly powerful tool, but they are struggling right now with what can it really do or what can't it do. So once again, you are welcome. And in today's section, I will be just going through some use cases that I'm very sure you may have encountered during your work. Now, who am I and why am I qualified to talk about today's topic? I like to say that I'm probably one of the top users of ChatGPT, because since day one when it was released, I've been using it and I have like well over 1,000 hours on the tool. So that counts for something. But beyond that, before we had ChatGPT, my background in tech stretched back to up to a decade now. And even before that, of course, I was trained as a psychologist, but at the BSc level. For masters, I went back to do experimental psychology, and that was the whole ride entirely. So, I mean, I've been involved in, people at work trying to use tools. And as somebody who has worked with tech for a long time, this current era we are in, I should rename myself, like use my name.
No,
Sorry,
no,
is
that's
that
not for
okay?
you. That's not
Oh,
for
okay, all
you.
right. Okay. So just before the break, like I've had experience with, working at the intersection of PM, applied AI, then building capacity. I wouldn't want to dwell much on this, but I just want to give a case in point of what I've done at Falcon Aerospace, where I work. We have a program called Walk in My Shoes. So it's a job rotational program where if you join the organization, mostly admin or ops or other roles, in fact, you get a taste of what different department looks like. So you could work in products for a couple of days, you work in flight dispatch, you work in maintenance planning, you get a feel of what the system looks like. And then we have a reporting system too, that when you are done with the rotation, you report, and the HR goes through your experience. Now that has been like a kind of guide for the organization to assess people and also to get a feel of what you might want to do later on as you join the organization. In fact, we've had people who maybe you start off in admin, but you want to do maintenance planning. I mean, it's a very, very progressive organization where as long as you are trained and qualified, because it's a very, very safety-prone organization, you are given that chance to learn, to upgrade yourself and also to imbibe new kind of skills. So I designed that program along with, the HRO, and it's been serving the organization, and it has this AI component embedded in it too, where we go to the data of people that have gone through this program and how we can even help them become better at their roles. So that's a brief about me and a little bit of what I've done. You might not be through Instinct Labs because I work mostly with, organizations. I've led trainings that has involved, alumni from the Ilmelu Foundation. I've been involved in programs with the UNDP and on and on and on. So let's just go on. What should be your advantage at the end of this program? Like I said earlier on, you have the car, but you don't know how fast it can go. You don't know how to fuel it. You don't know what exactly it can do. This class is where you really need to just, sit down, take notes, open your system, work with me. And I'm very sure at the end of the day, you'll be able to see some of these things that you probably haven't seen before. Like I said, I like to make it very practical. So I want to just start off with a very quick, thing that I know many persons may have been missing during the course of their using ChatGPT. It looks very, how do I put this, very easy, because most times you work with this thing for so long that it looks like, is there something else to learn? Well, there's something else to learn. Let me show you a very brief example. Let me briefly share okay, if you can see my window now, it's on ChatGPT. Now, you may want to look at something like this left-hand side. I don't know if you can see my ChatGPT window. If you can, just signal. Let me know you can see my window. Thumbs up, anything, just let me know. Can you see my window, ChatGPT? Okay, awesome. Now, look at these different things I've done, right? Look at there's AI in business school, there's dreaming new worlds, there's employee voice and conflict. If you click here, right, it shows you options, shares, that's a group chat. Many people don't know that they can actually share a chat with others, and that chat becomes what you and your colleagues can collaborate on. So you might start a conversation now, you might start a chat with ChatGPT, instead of just sharing it, because most people know how to share. Most don't know yet that you can actually start a group chat. So it now becomes like a brainstorming session within you and members of your team. That's one part. The other part is that you can move it to projects. So you can create a new project. Let's say I'm working on a project right now where we want to teach business schools how to use AI, right? I have done so many chats, different chats on this particular issue. But most of the time, when I want to look for that particular chat, because it's so many, maybe I'll use the search. Maybe I've forgotten the name of that, topic, right? It becomes, a time waster. Now, remember, I said one of the goals of today's class is to help you save at least 100 hours plus every year because you're using this tool. Sometimes you might even save that time just in a month if you can use ChatGPT smartly. So one more guide you might want to just pick up, one more technique or trick is you move to projects. Let me show you a new project, right? I clicked on new project. I said AI for business schools, right? Then I create the project. So it's going to create a project for me. Now, what is a project in ChatGPT? Most of the time, it's just you. So here we are. We have a project, and it has its own chat interface. Now, every other relevant chats that I've had with ChatGPT, for instance, lawyers using Cloud Code, it's a chat I've had, global strategy. Now, I could say, okay, let me add this to what? To my AI for business tools, right? So in this chat box, that is not my usual chat box, it's a project. I could tell ChatGPT, what is the best way that lawyers taking a business school program might use AI, right? Now, because I've already done a chat before with the system, and it has a context already, it uses that context to answer this question. So now I have a project that involves different chats, different conversations that I've had. And now, because I was smart enough to create a project, I don't need to start looking for, come here and looking for, oh, when did I chat with it? No, no, no. I have a project that has different conversations already. And I can now start a master kind of, conversation that has all my learnings and that uses it to train ChatGPT. So that's just one way that you can start using this tool from today. Change the way you've been working with the tool and power up your learning with ChatGPT. All right, so let me just quickly go back to our presentation. So if that makes sense to you, if it's something that you feel like, oh yeah, this is actually quality, if you've learned something already, can I get a thumbs up? Now, if you have an issue with the last point I just made about, creating a project too, let me know. That's the reason why I'm asking, because some of the time doing classes like this, people tend to just listen and they are shy to ask questions because they're like, oh, why am I going to be the one that's raising up my hands or asking questions? Like I said, it's an interactive session. So I really want everybody to just really feel free about asking questions and not feeling like, oh, I'm just asking and holding back the class. All right. This is one issue we have today with most of these chatbots or anything we are doing today with AI. You tell it, help me do this, help me do that, and it tells you, absolutely. And sometimes it can be very, very frustrating. Like, you don't even know what I mean, right? So how are you so sure? And why are you so confident and telling me absolutely? If that's in your experience, I'd like to really hear from us in the chat. Have you had this experience where what you wanted actually was clarity? You wanted to know, how can I get this project underway? You go to ChatGPT and you're like, I am a this, and that. I want to do this and this and this and this. Maybe you just give it a little prompt and it tells you, oh, absolutely awesome. Have you had such experience? Can I see a thumbs up? If you had that kind of experience, okay, all right. So what has been missing, right? What has been missing is the core of today's class. But let me just go back and show you a thing or two about what the problem might be. You see, these tools are good at pattern recognition. They are good at structuring information. They are good at summarizing and comparing. They are good at drafting and refining. However, they are not good at accountability, contextual judgment, politics, and final decisions. Bear this in mind, because most times people think these things are so powerful, they are so good, they are so lovely. So there's no reason for me to be the one giving it, steps on how to do this or that. You are so wrong and you waste your time and you will get confused, right? But once you know this, that, oh, this is a pattern recognition system and it's good at structuring information, can help me summarize and compare, that can help me draft and refine. Once you have this at the back of your mind, you enter any interaction with that tool or with that mindset of, oh, okay, if that's the case, I should be giving it context. I should help it be accountable to me. I should make it, good at politics. Let me give you another, tip on how you can help with some of these problems. How many of you have used the agentic property in ChatGPT? Or if you're even aware of it? of agents within ChatGPT? Thumbs up. Have you used agents in ChatGPT? Have you had the experience before of using agents in ChatGPT? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, we have somebody. All right. Anybody else? Okay. Okay. So let me just go straight up and show us what that looks like. Now, for those who have not used agents before in ChatGPT, let me quickly share and show where we are. Okay. Okay. So we're back to our normal, empty space. When you check your plus button, you can see there's an agent mode. Now, what agent mode does is it allows you to use ChatGPT for things that you might not be able to do in your normal chat interface. So, for instance, you can see it gives you suggestions like reports, actions, spreadsheets, presentations. Many people will always ask me, like, how do you use it for your slides? I mean, why are you good at using it for presentation? I tell them I go beyond normal usage. I do reports. I allow it to take actions for me. Let me give you just a little bit of tip of how this looks like. You can see under actions, you have create a list on Google Maps, right? I could say create a list of, let's say, real estate agents in Lagos, right? Something like that. Now, the way the agent functions is that it lets the AI to take charge of your computer more or less. It allows you to take actions. So you can see a part where it says opening browser to searching the web, opening real estate agent results. So it's going to go through the web for me. Now, instead of me being the one going to all those places, it goes to different sites. It does the work of looking at all those things, and then it creates a list. Now, how does this different from your normal usage? Because remember, when we had AI first come out, it couldn't bounce the web, right? It couldn't do so many things that it does now. But there's something that it does with this agent mode that normally you don't even get, even with your normal search. It goes beyond just normal search to take advanced actions. So, in a nutshell, if you've not been using the agentic mode, start thinking about using agentic mode. I'm going to really show you how we can leverage this agentic mode for ChatGPT. But for those just joining us, like I promised, it's going to be an interactive class, and that's just one of the ways you use ChatGPT and similar tools beyond what you are already using. All right, let's proceed. Today, you will learn to plan, design, and analyze with AI. You struggle because you don't define your tasks well. So you go with something like write a report for me. That is not a good prompt. That is you asking for an outcome. AI needs units of works. It needs you to tell it, I'm a project manager. I need you to design a work breakdown structure, right? It needs that. You don't just go and be like, okay, create a project report for me. What is the context? How exactly do you work, right? So you need to be able to break down your work before you even delegate to AI. And this is why most times you think you can guide the AI after you're giving it, like, you just go and you'll be like, oh, I've done this, I've done that. Boom, do your work. But there's a problem with that. If you give it a benchmark, right, it starts with that benchmark and it will continue like that. Have you noticed that sometimes when you start a chat with, let's say, ChatGPT, for instance, sometimes you want to change the conversation within that same window, that same chat, but it refuses. It continues to tether back to that particular conversation. That is a problem with the model training, with the way it has been designed. So most times, if you are doing a work, do one thing within a particular system, do one thing within a particular, chat box. Don't start talking about, I'm doing a project work on this, and that. And the next thing, I'm doing a plan on a different topic. It will find a way to go back to your initial conversation in that chat. What I advise is, if you must do different things at all that has a connection, still create a project. Because by making a project, that you'll be able to harness these different aspects of it. Let's move on. Today, we're going to use Aisha as a case study. She's a fictional person. In fact, I made her with AI, but she's a project manager working for a multinational organization. Now, Aisha has different challenges, and we'll be going to what a day in her life looks like. How many of you know that you can create a calendar in ChatGPT and then you export that calendar to your own calendar that you use, and it immediately changes your calendar? Let me show you what that looks like. Now, most people are unaware that you can create tools or use tools in ChatGPT. Many think that, well, I mean, just use it for normal things, right? I use it for work, I use it for this and that. But you can create actual tools that you can use in other kind of system. So I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to use Aisha's case study for this particular case in point. So let's say I have a weekly schedule and I want to use that schedule to affect my own calendar. Now, I am Aisha in this case. So I designed a prompt before today's class. Let me just show you what it looks like. So if you can see my prompt, just let me know. So I have a 6-week project starting on 4th of March, XYZ. All these things are not important in this context. What I want to show you is this. Look at this instruction here, right? It says output only the IC.ICS file contents, right? So let me show you what that looks like. Now, a .ics file is a file you use to create calendar. That's your calendar, right? That you have in your app, your Google phone, your iPhone. Those calendar, they are .ics file. So when you create a schedule in real life and you get a .ics file, you can download it to your calendar, and then you actually change your real life calendar using what you've made in ChatGPT. But in my experience, I've found that most people don't even know that they can create calendars in ChatGPT and then get ChatGPT to make it in a .ics format. So can you see this format now? Like, can you see the format now? It is not your normal usual chat format. And it is doing this because I asked it to output only the .ics file content. Now, it is not giving me a .ics content. This is the way it will appear in your calendar normally, right? So anytime you have like a long list of schedule or a project or whatever, and you don't really know how to break it down into a calendar, you ask for a .ics file. So I'm going to ask for what? So now I simply ask it, I want a .ics file that I can use for my calendar. So there's a bit of a confusion now because it's giving me that same, going up and down. You will face things like this, right? You will face things like this if your font is not clear enough. It will end up repeating itself over and over and over again. So at this point, I'll take a break and then ask the house really, what do you do when you need something like this? You know what you want, right? But it's not giving you that exact thing that you want. What is your usual approach? I'll tell you mine, but I want to hear from you. You can use the chat box. You can use the, the audio. If you find yourself in a loop where, you want something, in this case now, I want a .ics file, but it's still giving me something else. What is the approach you take when you enter this kind of situation? For me, what I do is this, and I'll show you with this example. So I'll be like, this is not what I want. So most times, what we do is we keep on repeating the same thing, but we don't let it know that the output it's giving us is the wrong one. You need to create like a stopgap where you make it understand that, oh, this is not what I want. I actually want a .ics file I can, download, right, to my calendar app on my phone. See the level of clarity between this particular instruction and what I've been doing since. So now it's thinking. Let me show you something that many people miss when they work with these tools. You should be looking at the way the AI think. If you don't do that, you will end up having issues because it is so what it thinks that you know it is on track. Most of the time, what people do is we just look at it from, oh, do your work, Joe. Let me just go and face my life, right? That is not the best approach. So see what we have now. We have a download the .ics file, right? I can download this. Now it has downloaded that file. When I go to that file, I can export that file to my calendar. If you've ever downloaded a .ics file to your calendar, let me know, please. Just give me a thumbs up. Or if you've never downloaded the .ics file, if you've never done that to your calendar, let me know, thumbs up. If you've never used a .ics file. Okay, so for many people now, it might be a new experience, using .ics file. It's a very straightforward process, really. Go to your calendar app, download it, and immediately your calendar changes. So all the plan you've done with ChatGPT, don't just stop there. Ask it to give you a .ics file that you want to download, just the same way I've done. If you experience that problem, be very, very clear with your instruction, and then download the file and export to your calendar. All right, we are already 30 minutes in, time flies. And one of my challenges with this kind of trainings most times is that we do so much that I don't even finish my slides most times because practical sessions can be very, very long. So I'm really going to try and be fast this time around and hope that we get through a lot in today's training. So let us go back to Aisha, right? Let's go back to, a day in her life. So she has done the challenge. She has done a calendar. She's good to go, more or less. If there is one thing you take away from today's class, let it be this. Your edge with AI comes with your ability to do two things. Number one is workflow design. Number two is task decomposition. I'm going to repeat that. Your edge with using AI as a worker comes from your ability to do two things: workflow design and task decomposition. See, nobody knows your work as well as you do. You've been in your position for months, years, so it would be crazy to think that one tool will just come and replace you. That is not going to happen. But you know what will happen most likely? Your work will be redesigned because of the tool. This is where we are right now in history. It's like you were using typewriters, right? Then computer was invented. Now, instead of you to say, oh, let me learn how to use the computer, you are buying into the hype or the news that computers are going to replace your job. And that is not really how it works most time, because when you move from a typist to, let's say, a desktop operator or a computer operator, you are still doing the same task, which is typing letters, right? The medium only changed. So what do you have to be very, very good at? Use your typing skills and get very good at using computers to do that typing, right? But unfortunately, most people are not even tapping into this opportunity. They are all, buying into this mania or this phobia of that we're going to lose our jobs. But do you know what makes you invaluable in your organization? Be the guy or the lady that builds the benchmark for using AI in your role. I tell people this all the time, that if there's one person I know that will not be sacked, is the person who comes up with the blueprint of how the organization uses AI for that role, and you are the one that is like at the top of your game. See, they might sack everybody else, but you are the one who will save time, save money, save the company headache. Because many companies right now are not even getting the benefit of AI. They are spending money, but they don't get that benefit because they don't even know how to apply AI to their jobs. So I mean, how did you come into this? Very, very simple. And it's something that even gives you an edge when it comes to beyond your job. You can use this thing I'm telling you now to present at conferences, to publish for journals in your field. Create a benchmark for using AI in your role. That is how you stand out. So what do I mean by benchmark? Right now, when any new model is released, right, they'll say something like, oh, this benchmark scores 90% on, analytics, mathematics. There's this one I like very well, which is persuasion. They stopped doing it, but when they first released ChatGPT, the early benchmarks had its scoreline on things like psychological tests. But they found out very, very quickly that, oh, if you're using this tool to influence people, it can be very, 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 very powerful for influencing people. Now, at this point, I'm going to jump to something I've saved for last. But I'm going to show you now how you can use AI to influence people, right? Which is crazy to think about, but it's so, so true. And most people don't even know because, well, they're like, oh, what am I going to, they don't even have a clue about it, to be honest, because we're like, oh, we don't really know it can do this. But let me show you how this works in a very straightforward way. You see your WhatsApp, right? Everybody that you chat with, you have a record of your chat with that person. Now, you know that you can download your chat with people on WhatsApp. I don't really know if you know this, but you can download your chats with people on WhatsApp. Now, when you export your chats, right, that chat you've had, this is where my training as in psychology comes into play for me, right? But I've seen it applied in different areas too. You can actually analyze a person using the chats that you've had with the person. And the chats will be very, very accurate, at least to a very good degree. So this is one reason, in my opinion, why they even stop showing you the benchmark for psychological tests for these AI tools. Now, I could show you an example, but I think for the sake of today's class and for privacy reasons too, I don't think this is a very good use case to apply for people unless you do it ethically. So one problem we're having now with AI is that we're having lots of deepfake. You can clone anybody's voice. You can even use their likeness to create a video of them. So this is a problem that we are seeing in the world of AI. And it's very good I touch on this before I even go further with how you're going to apply it in work, because see, this thing is like, it's like by giving you, let's say, a weapon. A knife can be either a dagger or something you use in kitchen to make food. So I'm going to employ everybody that as you learn these things, bear in mind that you should also apply them ethically. Also, bear in mind that it can land you in trouble if you don't use it thoughtfully, if you expose your company's data to AI in ways that are not, being guarded by your policies. So this is one thing I'm really going to encourage everybody to think about as you use AI in your tool, in your work. And also, it's one area too you should think about as you create benchmarks for your job. Please do not forget this. In fact, you get a lot of value when you, as you make benchmarks, create the ethics tool to guide the use of the AI in that benchmark. Are we following? And are we getting value from this so far? Now, if you have any use case that you would like me to touch on in the course of today's class, put it in the chat box. I also want to use your use case and give you practical value. Anyone at all you feel like, you kind of like struggled with for AI, and it keeps giving you that challenge. It could be maybe for Excel, it could be maybe for, project planning, it could be maybe for anything at all that you can discuss with. Now, please don't tell me your job, don't tell me where you work. Just give me in, an ambiguous way that can tie it back to you. Right. So, like I said, your edge comes from workflow design and task decomposition. What does it mean to decompose a task? It's very simple. You break it down into clear, logical sub-tasks. I'll give you an example from my role. I'm a program manager. But what do? I develop programs, right? Or I manage programs. That's still vague. What do I really do? I create learning management systems sometimes, where organizations can take all the knowledge that they have within the organization and break it down into ways people can learn. But it's still a bit vague. I mean, how have I applied this? Well, to tell you, I've worked with people, that have actually thought about breaking down what they do so that when a new hire comes to the job, they can learn within 2 weeks what might have taken them probably 2 months. And trust me, it's so, so, so valuable. But most people never know until you sit down and think about your job on a day-to-day basis. What are the things I repeat? What are the things that challenge me? Okay, this is my standard operating procedure, right? How can I improve on this? What are the ways that the invention of ChatGPT changes the way that I work, that I use my SOP? These are the ways you also create a benchmark for your home, right? Because at the end of the day, when you sit and decompose your tasks, you now match how AI can be used for, let's say, creating your customer persona. Let me even stop at this point. If you manage any group chats, right? If you manage any group chats right now in WhatsApp, on Discord, even on Slack, because you can extract that data, you can take that chat from ChatGPT and tell it to do this for you. Now, let me show you. I did promise that I would not, I will not use real life data because that would be unethical, right? But let me show you how I tend to use this to get data most times when I don't want to, use my organizational data, which is a very, very key tool for you to have. I use ChatGPT as a simulation engine. So I say, I am the moderator of a group chat for let us use for project managers in the aviation industry, right? Now, I want you to simulate, the conversations we have. I would like to perform behavioral analysis of the group chat members. So this is one area where this tool is so good at that people don't even, realize. And of course, to tell you perfect, right? I mean, it's only be perfect already. We'll do this in the way that is useful, blah, blah, blah. Now, see what it's doing here. It's giving a simulation of the charts that people have within the organization, right? But I don't want to stop here, of course, but this is not why I came. And I'm doing this with the assumption that you have your own data. Now, what do I do at the end of the day when I have a data and I have anonymized the data? What I do is this. I'm going to tell it to perform a personality analysis and to group people using the Big Five model. So after all this long chart, after all the simulation and all it has done, I come here and I say this. I say analyze each member using the Big Five personality model. That is all you need. So you can export a chart from WhatsApp and then you use GPT to analyze people. This is what I mean. And I'll tell you one way I've used this. I've used this for campaigns, right? Now, because in groups, it's easier when people are in groups, to be able to work with their data and not to infringe on their privacy because you've asked them beforehand, right? I find it easier that, okay, most organizations can work with AI like this. But let me show you what it looks like when you do that analysis. Look at PMA. It has analyzed this person and it's telling me that this person is open to a medium or low level. Person is conscientious. He has a medium level of extraversion. Is a bit agreeable and is very low on neuroticism. right? So everybody you chat with, you can analyze them and you can see the level of their extraversion, openness, agreeableness, because you have data about them. And there's something we found out in psychology, that a person's chat data on WhatsApp, even on platforms like Twitter, even on Facebook, is a very good predictor of what they buy and what kind of party lines they vote, those votes, right? The kind of people they would like. So you can get insights into a person's mind using data that you already have and leveraging ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, because you have the right framework for operating with that data. However, like I said earlier on, this must be done ethically. So this is why I prefer that if you are managing a group chat, most times it's easier to work in a group chat and ask questions like this. What kind of project management software will members of this group need, given their personality and the chats we have had? Can you see this? I'm taking the data from the group chats, right? And it's now looking at their needs and it's giving me recommendations based on certain indexes, right? So it tells me, okay, Jira will be useful for them, as so DevOps. But I would not be able to recommend these tools if I do not know these people well. But because I'm going to link from the data, analyze it with ChatGPT, we can now have practical applications. So these tools are, of course, very, very powerful, but it all, dwells within the context of how you use them. I really hope we're getting value from this. I hope it's making sense. I hope we're also enjoying it, because if we're not enjoying it, I'd like to close quicker so that we go about our days. But if you are getting value, and if you have questions at this point about how
questions in the chat. Let me just read them out to you so you can just.
Okay.
I'll just start with the last, then I'll walk. So there's a question here saying a renowned clergy recently stated that Grok is a more reliable data / information gathering tool than ChatGPT. How true is this? Second question is, what's the difference between Perplexity AI and ChatGPT?
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. That's a very good question. So now, the last thing I mentioned was what? Using data, right? And then bring your data to this tool. Grok has the advantage of being the only tool that has access to Twitter or X data. One of the first things Elon Musk did when he got Twitter was he stopped other platforms from freely accessing Twitter data. So Grok has a monopoly of data on Twitter. And what the last thing I said? I said that if you can analyze somebody's Twitter, their tweets rather, you can actually run a good model of their behavior. So as long as they are heavy users of Twitter, you can analyze them better using Grok. But here's the catch. Now, Grok is not a better AI model than ChatGPT for a very simple reason. All these tools have models, they have benchmarks on which they are rated on. So, for the most part, ChatGPT does very, very well on some benchmarks. I'll give you two very recent use cases. Just last week or so, they launched ChatGPT for health. Don't know if you are aware of that. Now they launched that particular ability, meaning that you can link up ChatGPT with your health data, and it does a better job of analyzing your health data than Grok or any other tool that you can think of in that case. Claude too did theirs recently when it comes to health data analysis. So I would say ChatGPT and Claude are better for analyzing health data than Grok. So it all depends on the kind of data that you're looking for. Grok excels that if you want to analyze recent happenings. In fact, I have I have some automations on Grok where at 7 p.m. every day, it tells me what is happening on, let's say, like, certain markets, like the finance market. I don't know if you're aware of that, but with Grok, you can set it up to give you daily reviews, right? One other way I like to use Grok is I have this very elaborate prompts. I'm talking about like 2-3 pages of just prompts alone that I use for business analysis. And I tell it to give me like 5 handles on Grok that are models that I could, curate my campaign after. So it really differs, or it depends on the kind of data that you are using the tool for. One tool that doesn't get talked about a lot is Gemini. And to me, it's like the best. Why? Because I use Gemini to create images and videos. And I believe something, and it's something I'm working very hard on this year. I believe that any business, any company can do better with a lot more attention. That's my belief. I believe that, if you can get the right kind of people, if you can reach them in time, you are most likely not to run out of business. There's hardly a business in the world right now, or a company right now, that doesn't need more customers, in the sense of, I need people to buy my product or service. Even if you can't service them now, you want to put them in a pipeline, right? So with Gemini, you can do image generation and video much more effectively. So I guess this is probably a more broad way of trying to answer question one, right? So I would say the clergy is right in a way. So there's always in a way when it comes to answering questions like this. So the difference between Perplexity AI and ChatGPT, I would say, well, in terms of design, what the guys at Perplexity did was that they really wanted to focus on research from day one. So they're one of the first to really go all in on, okay, we want to, be able to verify information when you chat. Remember, in the earlier days, there was a lot of, hallucination with AI. Like, you ask it for something to give you wrong citations. It even does make up things. That was a very recurring thing earlier on. But later on, as it added web search, as it added grounding, you get more authentic information. But one thing? The fact is that when you use Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity, you still have to be in the loop. It doesn't matter whether they tell you that, whether it tells you perfectly or absolutely or any of the things it likes to say. It doesn't matter. You must be in the loop. Because if the AI can do everything you do, then why are you needed in that company? So as much as you want people, as you want to break your work down and make it very, very easy for you to work, find a way to put yourself in the loop. And that's one of the ways, one of the things I'm going hard on in this session. Let me just quickly continue because we're almost 1 hour into our training. Time flies. Now, most of the time, you find that your average worker tends to use, ChatGPT as, they say things like write reports, they get one long answer, and then they try to fix the wrong answer. The best way to go about it is to break it into stages. Then you use it to chat and get to a place where it is more accurate. Then you get a cleaner output. I'll show you what this looks like. So there's a model I want us to take away from today's class, which I call the smart worker workflow model. AI is better when it has a job description. If you don't have a model or a job description for your role, go on LinkedIn, look for job description people have used to hire for your role. Take that job description, bring it into ChatGPT, and then break it down and use it for your task decomposition. Because sometimes what happens is that we get into jobs and we kind of like forget what it was like when we tried to, get that job in the first place. So Go to LinkedIn, look for any job that moves into your role, and then use it to fine-tune your own role, because like I said, nobody has more experience about your job than you. So I would like to also look into, how we can do task decomposition with ChatGPT. I'm going to send all the, all the, prompts I used today to everyone who attends. I hope I get that access to do that. But I will send all my, prompts. I'll send the model so you can use to apply it to your job too. All right, so let's quickly look at how to use ChatGPT for our task decomposition, what that actually looks like. So let me open a new window and share it. Okay. So this is my prompt, and I'm like, you are a senior workflow designer. I need to complete the following tasks. Now, there's something in mind here. Let me just stop here briefly. You are a senior workflow designer. By doing this, I'm saying that you, in your role, you are a workflow designer, right? And with AI, you will complete several tasks. Bear this in mind. Now, in this case, I have used Aisha as our case study. She's a project manager and she's working on a policy briefing for youth and employment. And I'm saying that, okay, prepare a policy briefing on youth unemployment. Bear in mind, this is just one task. I'm not giving it different tasks to do at the same time. People miss this a lot and it really trips them up. Then I say what? I say, do not generate the content yet, right? First, break these tasks into clear stages. For each stage, define the purpose, the input, and the output. Then indicate which stages are suitable for AI support and human judgment. I truly believe if you take this approach into your work, and you are building projects almost every other day, and you don't relent on it, I believe within a month of doing this, you are in a position to make benchmark for your role. Because there will be few people in this world that would have taken this systematic approach that that really clarifies this AI's job, this human job, right? Because the approach I've seen in my experience is most people come into jobs, into interaction with ChatGPT when they have need for it. But I feel the ultimate need for it is job redesign. How can I use this tool for my job and make it in a way that it leverages the advantage of the AI and also my work expertise, my domain experience. That is what this task decomposition prompt does. And we do it on a task by task basis. So here's the answer. It says what? We are designing the machine first, not running it yet. So stage one, clarify the policy mandate and the audience, right? Now, it gives me the purpose, gives me the input, gives me the output. So it says AI support. No, so AI cannot take primary responsibility. Now, AI can prompt clarification questions, but final framing requires human judgment and political awareness. Do you get this now? Like, can we see how you are creating room for yourself and also room for the AI to flourish? Stage two, move from youth employment exists to what exactly is broken in the labor market. So this is the input and this is the output. AI supports, help you to refine the problem statement, identify common framing pitfalls. Human judgment is needed to choose the framing that aligns with policy realities. So on and on and on and on we go. But now we have a clear use case for what? For where AI works and where human works. Let me give you a trick you can use now. If you want to publish a journal article or a benchmark for your role, when you've done this for different tasks, you can create a project right? Where you put everything like this about your role, your task decomposition, put it into a project and name it what? Project management plus AI benchmark. This is you now making your benchmark. But when you've done this, do something like this. You say, create a benchmark table separating AI and human role for this task, right? So at the end of the day, what you would have for that project will be for this role. But for this one, I'm saying for this task. Now, when you do that, it's going to give you a table, right, that you can even put in your journal publication, right? And you now clearly show, oh, this is where AI clearly works for this. This is where human, clearly works for it. Now, who has the decision authority? Most of the time, it's going to be human exclusive. Sometimes I tell you, okay, AI can decide, but most of the time to delegate to the human. This is how you build for AI and yourself and not become, obsolete or taken out of the equation. I'm very keen on this because, to be frank, if you're not careful, yes, it's true that AI can take your job from you in a way that you create systems that people at management look at and be like, why do we need 5 people for this role? Let's just use one person and use this, workflow or this design, for our job. And it's happening already in Silicon Valley, in many other places. Many jobs are going obsolete because they're using AI to just replace themselves. And I said something the other day. I've not seen a group of people so invested in their obsolescence than software engineers, because now AI can code and it's linked to downsizing, and it's linked to a scenario where junior developers are not getting employed anymore. So I do feel that a thoughtful way of going about this is to use AI for your role, create the benchmark, but also create space for yourself. Because some companies, some human resource people might just be like, oh, okay, since AI can do this, let's sack these people. They sack them. Then they realize that the workflow cannot even, do what it was meant to do or, set to do. Then they start going back to re-employ people. So I want a very thoughtful, robust process towards the way we apply AI. And that is, how I'm thinking about today's training and also other training. So I do hope with this, you have something that you can grab and be like, I mean, even if this class ends today, I'm going back to my job, I'm redesigning it, I'm making a workflow for myself. I do hope you feel like that. I mean, if you feel like that for your job, for your role, let me know. But if you don't, let me also know, because there's something too I want to add to this. Do you have a question? Yeah.
There are two questions in the chat. Question one, thank you for the insightful session. I noticed you used the paid version of ChatGPT. For professionals
Okay.
who are limited to the free version, how can they still use it effectively and get the most value from it? That's question one. And then the second question is, what is the major downside to over-reliance on AI?
Thank you very much. Now, that last question, right, is a big, big problem because we're having cases of, we're having people that are going into intellectual slumber because of AI. If you're not careful, the downside is that you will just not want to think because AI can do so many things for you. Like, you will just feel like, oh, I mean, there's no need for me to read these documents. I'll just need AI and then summarize it. So you might end up lacking depth if you're not careful. Yes, that's a real thing. That's a real thing. In fact, one of my favorite tools is Notebook LM, right? Now, Notebook LM is the next tool I'm going to show us. And one of the ways we apply this at Falcon Aerospace is we used it for the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, guideline. So there's this documentation that the NCA puts out that you need to know. It's a very long document. It's over 20 pages. I mean, 20 sections rather, right? And each one has like 10 plus pages. Some way more pages, right? So what I did, and this was like this has been like 2 years plus, where most people were not even aware of Notebook LM. I downloaded all the parts of the NCA documentation. So let me show what this looks like, because I think many organizations need tools like this, but they're not aware of it. So this is what Notebook LM looks like when you open. Please, if you can see this, let me know. If you can see my screen, if you can see the Notebook LM page. Okay, awesome. So now this is what the Nigerian Civil Aviation Regulation looks like. It's a chunky document. Like some of them have several parts. So what I did was I downloaded all of them and put them in this documentation. So you can chat with it. You can ask it questions, right? So let's say you are an engineer right now, and you want to know what is the relevant section of this regulation that allows me to, on how to decommission an aircraft. I mean, I simply come here and ask it, what is the relevant procedure for decommissioning an aircraft, right? So this is the thing with Notebook LM. It does not hallucinate, and I can say this confidently because the engineering behind it is it just retrieves from a document, but most importantly, it shows you the part of the document that it retrieved from, so that you don't put yourself in trouble. Because it has happened before where somebody went and cited an act or a law and put in a documentation, and then they were fined, and the person lost their job, right? Because even when it was time to admit, the person blamed an intern instead of admitting that this was my responsibility. He shifted the blame and said, "Oh, an intern was the person." Why didn't you say, "Oh, I used AI and I over relied on it"? It's giving Adam and Eve in the garden and blaming themselves. But as a professional, you don't really need to. But I found this happen a lot of the time, where people that are using these tools be doing like, "Oh, I don't use AI." And I'm like, why, why are you lying? You don't have to lie, because it's almost like a computer. You just have to take ownership and have your procedures and your process. So see our answer here, right? I asked it, what is the relevant procedure for decommissioning an aircraft? Now it goes into the regulation and shows me that the authority is mandated to remove an aircraft from the Nigerian registry under specific conditions. Now look at this thing here. It says what? One, the source. So if I click on it, see what happens. It takes me to the exact part of the document that deals on the registration, right? So if you work in a field or a role where you need to hamper down on specifics and it is very risk critical, please and please be very careful which AI to use. I would advise you to use tools like Notebook LM, because even beyond just asking it for things, you can create videos, right? You can create audio podcasts. You can even chat with it. Let me show you what that looks like. So um, so I hope we can all see this, right? So this documentation right now is there's now a podcast and it's just talking. Yeah, thank you. I have a question, right? I'd like to know what is the relevant section for flight dispatchers, to really hamper them on. So I don't know if we caught that right, but I was able to ask it a question and they answered the questions, still citing the relevant parts. So how is this useful for you? Let's say you have an exam that has lots of documents and you always commute, right? You can take the manual or the things you need to learn, load it to a notebook, then chat with it, then ask it questions, right? And all right, somebody say using AI for code-related submission is not like using a computer. It's a serious breach of code of conduct. It is misleading the code. Yes. So there are regulations on how you use it. Some have stipulated that they cannot, you don't use it at all. But guess what? There are still tools like Harvey.ai, right, that lawyers are using, Mr. Akpabio. So you have Harvey.ai, you have several other AI that are being created for lawyers. And I would also advise you that if you have the time, take the course by the University of Michigan on AI for lawyers, right? AI for lawyers. It's on Coursera, but it's by the University of Michigan. So because I get this a lot where some professionals are like, well, in my field of work, we can't use AI. But the truth is that everybody using AI in your field of work, right? And there are some stipulations on how you can use AI. Harvey.ai right now is $1 billion company that is helping lawyers use AI. So if you just say, oh, I can't use AI for law because there's one rule or something, you are also not, taking the approach that I'm trying to teach today on using it thoughtfully and within the framework of your, organization. Okay, yeah. And also thank you for bringing that up because most of the time, you need to go back to your industry guideline on AI use so that you don't fall into trap, right? You need to. It is something you must not miss. Let me just quickly rush back to our training because we are really fast approaching our deadline and I'm still. So also mention workflow design as being that superpower that you have because most of the time people go to the AI tools, they start on the research or do this thing for me, then they try to write from the research and then try to edit. But that's not a good workflow. You need to scope it first. You need to break it down. You need to map your sources. Use a tool like Notebook LM. There's something I didn't show you in Notebook LM. It has a search button where you can also import tools or import materials to the ones that you have and add it to the one that you also, imported to the tool. There's just so many ways that these tools make your work so easy and so more efficient. And I really, really wish everybody here would just get this power of, workflow design. Once you can do that, trust me, you're always at the edge. All right, so I also want to discuss the issue of your AI assisted workflows. You decide where it starts, you decide how you intervene, you also decide where verification happens. I've given you a prompt for that. We've done that. Just bear in mind these rules of thumbs, how you structure with AI, draft, comparison. You own judgment, you own the context, and you own the final decision. Because at the end of the day, they will not blame AI, they will blame you if anything happens. So task number 2, let's look at how we break down work for work design with ChatGPT. I want to use another prompt and say, it's a long prompt, mind you, but like I promise, I'm going to share it to everyone. So let's look at this briefly. All right. So I said act as a workflow architect. So we've moved from what? From design to architect with experience in project management. Remember, we're using Aisha as our case study. And I gave you the tasks and I said, prepare a clear and concise project status update for senior stakeholders. This is something most people do in different organizations, whether you are a PM, whether you are just in marketing, whether you're admin, most people end up giving status updates to their supervisors or to management, right? And you really want to do this thoughtfully. This is one way you do it while still retaining charge of the process. So I said, prepare a clear and concise project status update for senior stakeholders. Design an AI-assisted workflow for this task. So, we'll break it down, break it down, break it down. Then come to the end and see something that I wrote here. Now I said, do not write the update yet. Focus only on designing the workflow, right? If you just go and be like, give me these updates, but you don't ask to design the workflow, you're going to have issues with context. And even if you have the context, you don't really want to be the one giving all your company data to ChatGPT, because these tools can be hacked also. So you need to tread a very thin line, a careful line when you input data. One thing I do is, if I must give it context, I don't put name. So you don't put company name, you don't put people's name. You might change the name from, let's say, Aisha Bello. So let's say person A or person B or person X does this and that. You need to be mindful of the ethical implication of using this tool. So when you put this prompt, this is what you get: an AI-assisted workflow. This is the objective. This is my audience. This is my design principle. This is the step, right? This is the AI role. This is my role, the outputs, and everything. So it just breaks it down for you. Now you are a workflow architect. But do you know what? We don't even stop here, right? We don't stop here, because yes, we can do this and be like, I've done this, I've done the whole, but it's not enough. So let me just fast forward to step 3 rather. So yes, now how do we do this for other jobs? How do we do this for other roles or other tasks? Because I can't be putting this thing every time now. Every time I put it long prompts. Create systems. Get the ability to create systems, because now you have a workflow, yes, but if you have a system, you can now input different tabs into that system. Let me just quickly show you what that looks like. Then I'll pause for questions. So here's my prompt for that. I'm still in the same window, right? I'm still in the same window for the last workflow. I'm going to tell it this. I'm going to say, take the workflow above and turn it into a reusable template. Present it as a checklist or a step-by-step playbook that can be reused for similar tasks in the future. So once I have this, right, if tomorrow my job changes from, let's say I'm in project management today, and tomorrow I'm taking a more product-facing job, it doesn't matter. I simply use the system that I've developed, right? And I get this checklist that I can now apply to different use cases and different roles and different tasks. Trust me, task decomposition and workflow design is what most people are missing. You've done classes on prompt engineering, you'll be taking YouTube videos and all those things, yes. But this is how you take ownership. This is how you maintain, your value. And this is how you also help your organization to get the best out of your role. At this juncture, I want to stop for questions. I want to stop for, different observations or, okay. So do you have any questions? Do you have any?
If you have any questions, you can drop it in the chat, or maybe you just react by raising your hand if you want to speak.
All right. So in the absence of question, I want to go to the part that I see most professionals struggle with, and that is design. Everybody here creates PowerPoints, everybody here creates, you create presentation, right? And I found that most of the time, where we struggle with really, it's not in the content in itself. It's still the same old issue of structure. So, first of all, some rules of thumb. When you're making slides, right? I'll use my slide as a case study here. Whenever I create slides, I'm very, very careful about, how I download information, if I use that term. So if you notice in my slides, let me just go back and show you. Now, yes, this is the only page that has so many things. And if you notice, I just try to glance through it, right? But it's a structure, a system to how I present or how I create slides. Do not be shy of blank spaces. Because if you want to just like, fill everything with so many things, it doesn't really work. It's not the best thing. In fact, this is not even a very good slide, to be honest. This particular slide I'm showing you now, right? But I knew I could get away with it more or less because it's not the core of my presentation. Something like this, right? I can read it, I can make sense of it, I can take the lesson from it. Similarly to this, So structure for content, structure for attention. It's really that simple. Now, how does AI come into this? Well, in PowerPoint right now, you have your designer. In slides right now, you have Gemini. So you can ask it to help you with the structure of your presentation. You see, one thing is most professionals, we get into a funk. We get into a reading where we're like, oh, this is where I've been doing this thing. But really, there's a better way. So let me just quickly show us what the slide, when you're using slide, what it looks like. If you can see my screen on slides, please just thumbs up. Let me know you are following. If you can see my screen on slides, I mean, it looks like right now, please thumbs up. Okay, all right, okay, all right. So now, slides comes with, of course, different listing, but Google has integrated Gemini into, their workspace products. So you find Gemini in your mail, you find Gemini in your box, you find Gemini in your slides. So there's really no reason for you to create copy slides right now. I mean, minimum, just come and get a template at the minimum, right? So you can see here we have a prompt telling me, okay, make a slide for company values, blah, 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 blah. You can see images, right? I can even come and describe and tell it to create an image. You can see place for what? Infographics. And also there is a what? There is a style guide here. I can use to change the kind of style I want the imagery to have in my presentation. So dear professionals, really, there is no excuse for copy slides these days because you can use AI to augment your slides. You can need to change your picture, image type. You can use it to generate a prompt that matches the context of that particular slide. I'll give an instance. When I was making this particular slide here about your advantage as a smart worker, what did I do here? I took this slide and I went to ChatGPT and I said, give me a prompt that captures this particular slide. Give me a prompt that captures this slide, or even give me a prompt that captures the essence of this slide. And it gave me a prompt, and I went to Flow. So Flow is a tool by Google. And I'm going to show you some of the images I've created that you've seen in my slide today. So this is Flow by Google. So meet Aisha. This was where I created that image of Aisha, right? And this is where I made that image that I just showed you in my slide. So it gave me two options, either this or this for my slide. And I picked that, right? So I even have to prompt sometimes. You can see this person facing the driveway or the runway instead of just facing it is by the side, right? So your ability to create images too can be a superpower for you, can be a way for you to move smartly in this world of AI. And using tools like Flow is one way you as a professional stand out. So what's the key to Flow? It's still very simple. There's no, there's no difficulty to this. If you have a slide or a presentation, you simply go to ChatGPT and tell it, give me a prompt that captures the essence of this. Now, I want it to look either realistic or like an illustration or this or that. In fact, the first version of these prompts that I made, let me quickly share this with you. So look at my homepage, right? This image here, the first version was an illustration, actually. So you see this image. Let me go back and show you what I did. Now, the first version I got of that image was actually this. It was this woman here. But I was like, I mean, I'm going to be chatting with professionals. I don't want to look like we're here to play or something. Even though I don't mind this minimalist structure. So I said what? A simple command I gave it. I said, make it a real human. And it gave me this. But I was like, I mean, I'm in Nigeria, so why am I getting a white woman? I said, what? Make her Nigerian. Then I got this. Aisha, right? And I said, when it was time for me to get that other version, yeah. So when I made this standing version, what did I do? I came to this particular version here, and I clicked add to prompts, right? Then I said, make her stand by an empty whiteboard. She is smiling. That's the prompt I used to get this. Okay, see here, yes. So she's standing by an empty board, smiling. So when you create one person, you can take that person into different contexts. If I want her to, let's say, wear jackets, flying over a hill, I can make her, do that. This is one of the challenges with AI right now, that you can take somebody's image and put them in different situations. It's a good thing. It's a beautiful thing, but it's also a problem. Because imagine somebody just take your likeness and put you somewhere that you don't want to be. I mean, that's a problem. So when I give this training, when I guide professionals, I'm always like hampering on ethics. And some people get tired of that because they're like, I mean, shouldn't you just train us and not worry? Well, I have to worry because I've given you a knife, more or less, you know. So I hope with these little use cases are shown, we've seen some of the abilities of AI to now. We still have like 27 minutes left. I want to take us to some very advanced use cases. Because of course, these ones are just like normal documentation and stuff. But I just want to show you how you can use these tools even beyond just what you do at work. So what do I mean? We're in an era right now where you can create a business with AI. And sometimes in your jobs, your role might involve something like, we have this idea for a program we want to launch. We want to do healthcare outreach to people in underserved communities. Like, how do we do it, right? Now, of course, using tax decomposition, you can do this. You can create many beautiful things. But to get buy-in from management, do you know what you need? Sometimes you need prototypes. Sometimes you need actual working products to show them that, oh, this is my idea. It's not just an idea, it's actually a product you can deploy within a couple of days. So it's the reason why in these interactions, most times, when I show people most times how to decompose their tasks and all that, I want to jump to design analysis and just creating actual products. So I hope I have enough time for that. I think it's a 2-hour class. So in the next 15 minutes, we'll just go through how to build actual working prototypes. And then we'll have Q&A, and then we'll just call it a day. If that works for you, let me know. Thumbs up, or if you want a break to catch your breath, let me know. Okay, so does it work for us? Please, a thumbs up. Are we ready for creating actual products? So, what do you mean by metric analysis, Ambassador Mr. Martins Oko? Can you please clarify on what you mean by metric analysis? If you can type, I'd appreciate that. So why don't we just catch our breath and give me minutes to, do that. I want to address a question somebody raised earlier because I realize it's something that will be a value to a lot of people moving forward. Okay, so there's this form that I use for work. Like I mentioned it earlier on, and I want to just use it now as a use case. So this is like a short version of it. Don't think I should. No, not this version. So let me briefly show us what I mean. Because if you have this, it's like you have a researcher within that will do work of 1 month in 1 day. I'm serious. So, I mean, so for Twitter.
So whilst you're doing that, if you have questions, you can drop your questions or you can just raise your hand. So you can just unmute and ask your question, please.
All right. So thank you very much. As promised, let me just show us how you can do business analysis in Grok. I mentioned earlier that the advantage of Grok is that it's the only tool that has real-time access to Twitter data, right? And the reason why I want to show this analysis is that I feel like for anybody in this class today, you can use this and build a business in 1 week. Okay, so let me just dump this here. Let me just show us what I'm doing with the. So this is Grok. Bear in mind, anytime you use a tool, always look at the model it is on. So sometimes some people are still stuck in ChatGPT 5.1 when we're at 5.2. So I could change it to the expert mode, right? Then I'll put my prompt. It's a very long prompt, really, but I'll send it to people that made the class today. It says, I want to build a business that's dash for dash. Now let's assume that you want to build, let's say, an e-commerce platform, but you want to tailor it to, let's say, somebody made a very interesting use case to me. I want to create jerseys, right? For people that love football, something like that. So let's say an e-commerce platform for sports lovers. Let's just say fitness lovers, because everybody wants to be fit, right? Now, my goal is to minimize the time and effort to, so I want to really understand, market my products, right? Now, perform a comprehensive analysis of posts on Twitter to understand that. Now, do not cross any other website than Twitter. It goes on and on and on and on on different aspects of the analysis. So there's the comparative analysis, there's the market opportunities, there's the pain points, there's the segmentation of the users. So this prompt is like a system prompt more or less. It's gonna do so much work for you. So instead of going through Twitter and looking for all these things, right? it's going to do that for you. So it's going to go through Twitter, look for people that this business idea should serve. And it's going to come back to us with a robust answer. In fact, most of the time, we get so much answers that it's so hard to finish it up. So what I do is to summarize the answers too, right? So notice that right now, it's searching Twitter. It's going through queries. So it's going through different tweets for me. These tools work at the speed of sound. Like they are so fast that what you will do in 1 month, they'll do it for you in 1 hour, right? So, and I think what I love the most is if you are very careful about how you apply it, you bring a level of like expertise and you put guardrails that remove error. So here we are. These are response on that. That's one prompt that we put. It's doing the market analysis, giving us the segments of people that we should that it should apply to, the performance optimization for active lifestyle. So this is under the market analysis, right? So the identity and the kind of solution that we are seeking, barrier-free shopping for specific need, on and on and on. Now, the pain points, right? So these pain points are not just from random research, it's from pain points within Twitter itself. Your opportunities, your competitors. So these are your top 10 competitors. It's going to give you real accounts for that fitness space, right? Now, 5 to 7 ways to frame or to build for advantage. Then conclusion. Can we see how within just minutes we did research, but not just research. There are 74 sources for this research. So it's not just random. I could click on this and start going through each of the source that it's leveraged, right, for each section from Twitter itself. But I don't want to stop there because I said in 15 minutes, I'm going to show you how to build products. So I'm going to ask it. Exactly. So I'm going to ask it. This will be our last session, our last part. I'll be like, okay, I want to create a website for this product. Now, give me a prompt I can upload to Lovable to create this. So something like it's so now I've done a research and I'm saying from this research, I want to create like a landing page or a business idea, an actual usable product that I can probably show somebody like an investor or somebody, right? I don't want to spend money on a website. I don't want to hire a developer. It helps when you have user experience knowledge. It helps when you can build products. But even without those knowledge, you can take a tool like Grok, do research, link your research to the product, then use that prompt to build a website. So it's very long, prompts. I'm not going to waste anybody's time by over plugging it. I'm just going to copy it, then go to Lovable. So this is what Lovable looks like. And I'm going to come here. I'm going to log in. I'm going to take that prompt and paste it here. So why it works, I'm going to show us what the prompt looks like. So this is this is like the encapsulation of our workshop today. You move from research to products in minutes. So what God told us to do is create a comprehensive e-commerce website for fitness enthusiasts, serving an online platform to browse, purchase, and personalize fitness products like apparel, supplements, equipment, and accessories. The site should emphasize personalization, inclusivity, and community. But let's just skip that part. Now, see this part. It says the visual design, modern fitness team. It gave me color, palettes to use for design, right? It gave me the type of layout, clean and responsive. It gave us the sections to have. It gave us an animation type, right? It gave us the core functionality that the website should have. So it's not enough to just say, oh, I want to build a website. But most people always say things like, when they see my output, how did I get this level of quality? Why does it look so good when I make images or videos? And I tell them, see, I am not shy about using AI to improve my prompts or improve my ideas. I'm just very, very stingy when it comes to how I start. I create a lot of foundational materials that I use by using AI. So for instance, I think deeply about the job, the task, the outcome that I wrote. I think about it. I open doc, I'll just open a blank document and just even if it's one page, I mean one paragraph, or even one sentence, then output, I just think about first and write it. I copy that and paste it in ChatGPT. It makes a lot of difference on the everyday user who just goes there and starts thinking inside ChatGPT. It will be a problem for you. So we have these prompts and we have this, system right now working for us and creating the products that will be searched. So I'm going to give time to play the outcome. And while we wait, I want to take questions and answers because we come to the end of today's class. Thank you everyone for just taking it. It's been a very long class, really. You're very patient. I didn't really update. So that's today's wrap up. If you have questions, if you have contributions, if you have use cases that you would like us to discuss, please let me know. All right. So thank you. And
Someone just asked the question, how can one download using Lovable?
so it's not a like desktop app. It's simply something it's a website. So you go to lovable.dev and simply sign up. It gives you free credits that you can use to build anything you want to build. But of course, the need to make money. So if you're using it too much, you use the paid version. But to be honest, there's a free version. Hardly. At least the minimum viable products you can build on the free version. So simply go to, let me type it in the chat box so you can use login.dev. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Boyega.
Okay. Someone has raised his hand. You can unmute yourself and speak.
Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Please, thank you for the session facilitated. I have a question specifically on Gemini.
Yeah.
I use Gemini for a section. Then while I was giving the prompt, I gave a principle that the Gemini should answer it based on that principle, personal principle I have. But since that time, despite I later gave it command that if you are giving me response, don't answer based on this principle. But if I ask any question, it will still reference that based on this your personal principle, this response is this, that, this, that. So I have go to several pages and I said, Gemini, erase this my principle from your memory. Start giving me response as normal AI going forward. It's still giving me as same. If I give a prompt now, it will say based on this your personal principle, this is how these things should be.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a fundamental issue with that, which is when you gave it that principle, was it just a chat that you used?
Oh, okay. It was like it should. I uploaded a book I wrote. Then I was
Okay.
having. I want to use somebody. I want to use that book to solve a particular problem. Well, the book is just about how people can execute tasks. So and somebody asked me, I have a New Year resolution to generate social amount of money. How can I do? Then I'm too busy to be engaging the person. I just upload my book and I said, based on this my book, give this person social guidelines on how to translate this vision to
Yeah.
achieve a result. Since that time till today, if I ask anything, it must still give me. That's why I deleted the book. I
Yeah.
even
Okay.
is there anything I can do.
So let me show you. Can you hear me? Hello. Please, if I'm still on, can you thumbs up for me? Hello.
I can
Mr.
hear you now, sir.
Yunusa. Okay, you can
Oh,
hear.
okay. I was mute for a while. All right. So this is the issue now, right? The problem is that the the memory of your chat model, right, has been updated to reference that material. So that's the issue. Now, I'm not sure you use both ChatGPT and Gemini, but the problem most likely might be, right? So this is you said it's in Gemini, so let's use Gemini first. Let me share. All right, so this is my Gemini, right? Now, if I come to your personal context, right? You will see that it has this part about your past chat with Gemini. So it learns from your chat to understand more about you and your goals. So if I off this, it doesn't learn from my goals. But I think for the most part, we want it to learn from our goals. So I'll leave it on. What you can do is this, like under your instructions for Gemini, you can add the instruction that states something like, you know, be explicit about where you want it to use get referral material from. Do you get? So where people are struggling with right now is in the custom instructions or your instructions under the Gemini. For example, in that case, my guess is that it is using a past conversation to reference new chats. And Gemini does this thing where even during chats, if you ask it, always reference this material, it does that. So a good way to scrape that off is to set a custom instruction because this is what it will always reference every time you have a chat. As you can see, mine is blank because I'm very, very open about what I want from Gemini. But for you having that issue, this is one way you override that. You'll be like, maybe always reference, current materials or reference, the relevant material to the question or the relevant information to my questions. That alone, I feel, should be able to help out. But if it doesn't help out with that, let me drop my email and see if it's something we can troubleshoot together. Because sometimes, to be honest, these issues, these models, they behave in new ways that everybody's learning one way or the other with some things, right? So I'm going to drop my email for those who might maybe have other challenges, even beyond this, and we cannot troubleshoot here. But if so, that's one way. Then under ChatGPT, it's usually a question of your custom instruction. So let me share that too. All right. So we have. So of course, you see the same personalization that you have. But you see this custom instruction. Now I have one, which is something I even found from Twitter of all places, but I really like it because the person I gave was someone I really admire. Says from this moment forward, you are my elite strategic operator for digital product growth, distribution, and monetization with full understanding of the business I'm in and the system that I'm building. It's a long custom instruction I use for ChatGPT, but it helps me, right? So this is another way too. You can make ChatGPT always behave in a more predictable way. So you want to use custom instruction. You want to discuss with it too in the chat and tell it this issue. Why am I having this challenge with this memory issue? And how do we solve it? But if you can't, if it doesn't work, you can always troubleshoot it with people within the Gemini team at Google. I have access to some of them. So that helps. Okay, any other question?
There are two questions, and we have two hands raised. So, question one, please, which app is best for research? Is there an app for note taking or accurate minutes writing? That's the first question. Okay, the second is a comment, and I see that the person has also raised his hand.
Okay.
Mr. Ajiboye Oluwaseun, you can speak, please.
Okay, thank you so much for this the tips and it's been a well enriching session. I just noticed like I placed in the comments sometimes when I try to make some designs with Gemini, and it has happened severally when I put the details of design oftentimes comes out beautiful, but the text gets distorted. Like if you write print, the R might have gone, and if you keep asking it to correct it, it's oftentimes remains the same. What oftentimes I try to do was just okay, remove it. I take it to another design app to conclude it. That is one. The other thing which I also noticed, which somebody alluded to, is that sometimes when I ask some questions, it brings up the old it uses the old information to even if I delete it, I don't know how I can get around that.
Okay, so I think the first question is about text. Now, in terms of text, the latest model of Gemini, Nano Banana Pro, handles text very well, like very, very well. So most likely it's a model problem. If the text is not showing well, it's a model problem. This is what I mean. I don't know if you use a paid version of Gemini, but I do. And I feel like to a large extent, when I'm here with create images, right? And I asked it something like maybe a Nigerian man holding a signboard, right? It says AI will not take your job, but somebody using AI will, right? So somebody using AI will. Now this is an image we are creating using Google Gemini, using the latest model, which is Nano Banana Pro. Okay, so it stands by the website. In fact, we could just give it a location, maybe like at third mainland bridge, right? Because Gemini is so good that even if I give it the coordinates of a location, it will create an image for me using that coordinates. But for the sake of a question, I'm just going to use this one to show how good it was in terms of the text. So I guess I need to ask again, are you using the paid version or are you using the free version? Because if it is a free version, you might still struggle with the text because they are keeping some things for just the paid version. And I would say for professionals, like you cannot avoid using the paid version for either of these tools. Like it's almost a given now for most jobs that okay, you're on the free version. Okay, yeah. So see what we created here, right? This is third mainland bridge. These are right. So see the quality of the imagery, right? Don't know if you can see it right now, but see how it looks like. So, okay, so, oh, okay, all right, awesome. Yeah. So most of the time, it's usually a context issue or, a custom instruction. Glad to be of help. So, Mr. Ajiboye, see how good now these tools are in terms of image generation, right? And look at some bias. I didn't say I wanted the man wearing tattered clothes or all those things, but it assumed that or somebody standing by the roadside is maybe a beggar or somebody because it's beggar that uses. In fact, there's some problems with the bias now that I'm having to deal with on a more tactical level, right? So we could of course change his okay, we could of course change what he's putting on. Maybe like he's wearing a suit, right? Wearing or let's say wearing suit and tie. And the model kind of like understands that I'm still referring to the same person in this image. All I need to do is to change that. So the most recent paid versions are very, very good, especially for tools like Gemini. All right, do we have any other question? Any other? So just before we call it a day, I want to show us the output from Lovable, right? What we got for the oh, I was sharing Lovable and not Gemini, it seems.
Okay, there's a hand raised. Let me just ask the person to speak. Okay, Mr. Martins Oko, you can go ahead and speak, please.
Yeah, all right.
Good day, all. And thank you for this opportunity. You truly enlighten us, and God bless you. I
Yeah.
want to make emphasis about what I meant by metric analysis.
Okay, yeah.
What I meant by metric analysis is creating analysis. Can we get a particular AI app or application that can create analysis such as calculating to get good results of the inflow and outflow of funds
Yeah.
in a company, such as if I enter detail, expenditure, credit sale, debit, and transaction detail. Can it transit it to Excel? And that is exporting.
Yeah.
Can we get such app that can create such a function?
Okay. All right. So that question, it's a very good question. It's a very, it has a lot of load to it. Yeah. So the first, the short answer would be yes. That if you give GPT enough context, enough data, you can then go ahead and instruct it to create an Excel file of that data which you gave it. Bear in mind, however, because I suspect you're asking something a bit even more robust, which is that we have a system at work that is, extracting data from, let's say, another tool, right? And is loading it into your spreadsheet. And you want to have an AI-powered system. So there's something we do in data engineering, like there's your normal ETL process, you extract, transform, and load. Or if you're in a cloud-based system, now the new paradigm is extract, load, and transform. I suspect what you want is more of it's an ELT system that has like an AI application at the end of it that is transforming your data using a model. So on that note, my answer will still be like, well, maybe if you are savvy enough to use like Microsoft Fabric, you can create a pipeline that imputes data or that extracts data or intakes data, runs it through a model and creates a dashboard at the end of it. So I know those things exist. Like I create some of those things too. But for the sake of this class, it's a bit more technical. It's not your typical ChatGPT. But let me show you what you can do if there are no issues with uploading your Excel documents to an AI platform, because sometimes there could be issue. You use a tool like, if I the best for this, the best for this, without a doubt, is Claude, right? Like, I don't think anyone comes close for Claude when it comes to working with actual data and really doing the heavy lifting. So if you can, my advice would be learn how to use Claude, export your data to Claude, tell it to do the analysis you want. Trust me, it won't disappoint. In fact, Claude was the first model that had this canvas by the side, where you give it a question, it starts creating an artifact for you by the side. So something like this, Claude is a good way to go about it. And now we have Claude in Excel, which just came out recently. It can help you use AI within Excel. Don't forget also, there's Copilot in Excel by Microsoft, but I found that it has its challenges, right? But these are the ways that right now that I know of, that you can use AI with systems like that. So that will be my answer. So I hope that helps, Ambassador Mr. Martins. Yeah. If someone has a question I've not answered, said Victoria. Okay, let me search for your question, Victoria. Is there an app for note taking or accurate minutes writing? I believe that's your only question, Victoria, right? Can you hear me? Okay. Victoria, can you hear me? You are looking for a note-taking app. Awesome. Yeah.
Question. Yeah, let's just take that and we'll round up. Yeah, so my question was that what app is best for research? And is there an app for taking notes and accurate minutes writing?
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. For research, I will go with Notebook LM. Like, that is my number one research app. Notebook LM, hands down. However, in Gemini, there's a deep research function. It's also in ChatGPT. I prefer Gemini because Google has all our data, right? And I found it to be very, 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 very useful for deep research, right? So I would say deep research in Gemini or Notebook LM. This is my answer for research too, right? Then for note taking, that's a tricky one because some of these note taking apps, they are spying into companies' meetings. In fact, one even admitted it that when they first started, what they would do is they will log in and be listening to the meeting and then send it somewhere. So in fact, they were not using AI in the beginning. I think that was Fireflies, one of those note-taking app. So there are many of them like that now that they tell you they're using AI, but they're just listening in. On that note, I would advise there are so much robust note-taking tools in Meet by Google. If your meeting is in Meet by Google, then use their note-taking function. So that would be my advice, in terms of note-taking for meetings. I don't know if that gets to the heart of your question, Victoria.
Okay. Yeah. So Victoria, I hope you answered your questions, and I think we've gone through most of the questions that were here. Yeah. So thank you so much, Mr. Michael. Really appreciate you. This has been a very, very insightful session, and a very practical one. So I want to believe that we've learned one or two things that we didn't know before. I mean, there are some functions in ChatGPT that I didn't know that now I know, which is really going to help in some of my operations. So a very big thank you to you, and a very big thank you to our audience for staying up until this moment. We're 10 minutes past our time. We really apologize for that. We just needed to cover all that was highlighted. So thank you, everyone. We appreciate you. Like the Akko had said at the very beginning of the session, that this is a monthly program. So every month we pick on focus sectors and topics and interest areas, and then we bring our guest speakers to just do justice to some of those topics. So we would implore that you join us again next month for another amazing session. So we want to say thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate you, and let's have a beautiful rest of the day. Bye. Also, a quick one. We'll be sharing this recording and some of the materials with everyone. I want to believe we all registered. So at the point where you registered, we had your email. So with those emails, we would share the resources with you, and we can always go back to watch and read some of the materials, like the prompts and everything that you had mentioned. Someone also mentioned that where could they watch? Yeah, it's posted on YouTube, NESG, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. So you can always go back there to watch not just this one, but our previous sessions as well. And quick one, we dropped some of our social channels here. We're on X, LinkedIn, Instagram. Please do well to follow. Do well to follow us and interact and all that. Okay, you said email of the academy. All right, it's academy@nesgroup.com. Okay, I'm just gonna respond to you now. So yeah, that's the email of the academy. So you can shoot us an email if you need any other information. Once again, thank you very much, and bye.